BS-Free Witchcraft is a production of the Nerd and Tie Podcast Network. Nerd and Tie produces podcasts ranging from actual play to true crime, and you can find more at nerdandtie.com or join our Discord by going to nerdandtie.com/Discord. Welcome to BS-Free Witchcraft, your monthly guide to the modern witchcraft movement. Mine's a lot of the usual, bullshit. I'm your host, Trey Dorn. It is May of 2026, and because it is May, that means we are doing a book review. That's right, for the third year in a row, and I guess that makes it a tradition, we're doing book reviews in May, and this year, the book that I will be reviewing is The Chaos Apple by Thumper Forge. This came out last year from Llewellyn, and it's about chaos witchcraft, chaos magic. And so we're going to talk about that this month, and as a preface, I want to be clear, as we stated last year when I changed my review policy. So when I did, not last year, but the year before, I did a review of Anwen Avalon's Celtic Goddess Grimoire, and that was received as a review copy. And while I have been sent review copies for other books, including one that Thumper co-wrote previously called Virgo Witch, I decided I am not going to review books that are sent to me as review copies. Starting last year with Thorn Moon's Witches Among Us and continuing with this book, The Chaos Apple, I paid for these copies out of my own pocket. I am in a position where if I ask for review copies of things, I will usually be sent them. But I have decided that if I'm going to potentially tear something apart, because I have to make this decision before I read the book, if I'm going to potentially tear something apart, the author should get some money. And while Thumper Forge has been on the show before, Thumper had no idea. They have no idea that I'm doing this review. Absolutely none. And we'll get to that review in just a minute, because while I think this is a very good book, I do have one fundamental issue with something Thumper said in it. That he's just wrong. But we'll get to that in a moment. That's your tease. Just some housekeeping. First and foremost, most importantly, that is in July. Every July, I do the annual Q&A and feedback episode where I answer questions from you, the listeners / watchers. Like, hardly anybody watches the video version. The YouTube numbers are pathetic. Most of you are listening to the audio version. I do the annual feedback episode, and that means I need questions from listeners like you. I already have a few, but I like to get as many questions as I can, get some diverse topics so I can answer what you want to know about me, about the show, but also about like general witchcraft topics. I've answered questions about lots of things, and I sometimes am paying attention to things that other people aren't. So people ask me questions about witchcraft, about my practice, about your practice, about other people's about stuff. But that means I need questions. And that means you have to go to bsforwitchcraft.com/contact, fill out that form, and do it before July 10th, 2026, to be in the July episode for 2026. You have to get me the questions by July 10th. I do anonymize these questions, so I never say who sent them in. I do not give any identifying information. Please remember, anything you put in your question will be read aloud, potentially on the show, so please do not put any information in your question that you do not want me reading to the thousands of listeners of this show. That is just a heads up. But I do this show runs on your questions for those. So bsforwitchcraft.com/contact, and again, July 10th, 2026 is the deadline for that. And then speaking of books, before we get to the book review, I do want to remind people first off that Welcome to Peregrine Lake, the first print collection of the webcomic that I write, Peregrine Lake, is out and available in print right now. It's pretty, it's fun, it's a good comic. It's drawn by the very talented Ethan Flanagan, and that is available right now. Links in the show notes. And then, for those of you who are aware of the urban fantasy series I write, the Mia Graves saga, Book 5, The Perfect Host, The first 4 books are out right now, but book 5, The Perfect Host, is coming out on August 10th, 2026. The release date is official, it is final, and it is now available also for pre-order. So if you're interested in pre-ordering either the ebook on Kindle or Kobo, or interested in buying the paperback either through Amazon or bookshop.org or your favorite book retailer here, all that information is in the show notes. That's enough hawking my own stuff, right? Like, I think we've gotten through that. So now that we have gotten through all of that, let's talk about The Chaos Apple by Thumper Forge. Now, this bit I'm editing in later. For people watching the video will notice the lighting has completely changed in my office, but since I look like I'm in the same outfit, you also have now learned watching the video that I am a cartoon character with a closet full of identical outfits. There is something wrong with me. Now, before we get started, there's a couple of things I want to talk about first, and that's just to give you kind of a baseline. First off, who Thumper Forge is. Thumper Forge has been on the show before, so if you are a long-term listener of BS Free Witchcraft, you know that I had Thumper on back in the Wicca Bad episode as we talked about the perceptions around Wicca, because one thing that Thumper is a Gardnerian Wiccan. An initiated Gardnerian Wiccan. But that's not the only thing Thumper is. Thumper is also a Discordian and a practitioner of chaos magic. So that's the angle that Thumper is writing this book from, not the angle of someone who is a Gardnerian Wiccan. And for those of you who might be confused as to how that might work, where someone could be both, please remember that Wicca is, again, orthopraxic, not orthodoxic. So, you will find various beliefs changing between Wiccans on how things actually work. And speaking of beliefs, that's kind of what drives chaos magic. Chaos magic is the perception that magic is conditioned by belief, where people who are doing chaos magic may will take from use other systems, I should say, more so than take, but use other systems of belief to define their magic. And what separates this from, say, like eclecticism, like I'm an eclectic Wiccan, right, where I have adapted things to my beliefs and, adapted things to me. With chaos magic, you adapt yourself to the belief system. That is at least the way that I've always, the way it's been explained to me. I, again, am not an expert on chaos magic. I am in many ways relying on things like this to teach me. It's also heavily linked to Discordianism. And I do recommend looking up Discordianism if you don't know much about it. And yeah. When I started doing the show, I've often talked about how not every witch knows about every kind of witchcraft. And I've talked about how, like, I have my own blind spots. That there are things in witchcraft I don't know. But I've been functionally a witch for 29 years at this point. I've learned a lot of things over the years. And what this book reminded me, the biggest thing this book reminded me was that I know more than I thought I did. I want to be very clear. The Chaos Apple is a very good book for people who are looking to get into chaos magic. It is a very good book to start with. If you don't know anything about chaos magic, what it is, its history, any of that, this is actually a really good primer. In fact, I think it's better than some of the primary sources that... You see, here's the thing. I thought I didn't know anything about chaos magic. Turns out, I knew a lot of this stuff because... like 25 years ago, I used to hang out with a bunch of Discordians, and I've read the Principia Discordia more than once. But I wasn't hanging out with chaotes. I wasn't hanging out with chaos magicians. I wasn't hanging out with chaos witches or people who called themselves that, right? Like I was hanging out with people who called themselves Discordians. And so I didn't think about it. I didn't think about it. And because it's not called Discordian witchcraft, it's called chaos magic, and people call themselves chaos magicians, chaos witches now. And I just assumed I didn't know anything about the topic. You see, I've talked about this before, that like I often have learned many things doing research for this show, right? Like I've had to cover topics like, say, law of attraction. I didn't know a ton about that. I just had opinions about how, like, the vibes I was getting. But before I did an episode on it, I did a lot of research, right? I dug in. I made sure that I could speak accurately. Like I am very good at researching things. That is a talent I have. So I just assume that if I don't immediately know something, that it's something I'm going to have to do a deep research on. And so it was remarkable for me that that this book was there. Now, this is very different. Like, this is, I think, a good primer in a way that a lot of people talking about chaos magic. This is a book I think a lot of people needed, because chaos witchcraft has become very popular through social media, right? And people tend to cobble and glue their practices together. And that's not a bad thing, right? But often that means that they don't have a good, firm text. And this is a very good book written for the modern reader. Now, I'll be honest, while I've read things like the Principia Discordia, I've never read a book on chaos magic before. This is the first book I've ever read about that specifically. And so I don't know if there are other good books about this, but I will say this is a good book about this. Now, I know I said at the beginning, I do have a major issue with this text. And it is a factual issue. It is a factual error that I found in this book. And it bothers me. It bothers me, Thumper. Thumper, in chapter 2, get this citation up on my screen. In chapter 2, when you're talking about the KLF, you say in this book, Thumper, I'm talking directly to you, Thumper, the KLF were briefly known as the Time Lords and put out a song called Doctor Who, which is played during sporting events to this day. Baby girl. First off, while it is true, the KLF did put out a song under the name The Time Lords, the name of that song is Doctoring the TARDIS. Then in parentheses, Doctor Who. The name of the song is Doctoring, so doctoring, but without a G, dropped with the apostrophe, Doctoring the TARDIS. And it is a mashup of a couple of songs, but primarily, most of the song is a combination of the Doctor Who theme and Rock and Roll Part 2 by Gary Glitter, also known as the Hey Song. Now, when you hear the song, when you hear what you think is the song at a sporting events, they're not playing Doctor in the TARDIS by the Time Lords. They're playing Rock and Roll Part 2, also known as the Hey Song, which has been popular at sporting events ever since it came out. Now, would I prefer that modern sporting events were using a song by Discordians and not a song by Gary Glitter? Yeah, I would like to live in that world. I like the world you proposed here. But unfortunately, if you don't know who Gary Glitter is, you can just Google that. It's not good. You don't. Y'all. But so the pedantic nerd in me, Gary Glitter is so fucking gross. Anyways, the pedantic nerd in me has to point this out, Thumper. It's the name of the song is Doctor in the TARDIS. I didn't sit down in a dorm basement TV lounge with my friends 26 years ago to watch a bootleg VHS copy of this music video for nothing. Right before we watched the original TV Neverwhere mini series by Neil Gaiman, who is also Jesus Christ, why are white men terrible? Oh my God. Sometimes not great. But anyways, that is literally my biggest problem with this book is the pedantic nerd in me. Like you have to understand that there are at least 2 sonic screwdrivers in this office. I don't know. One of them's over there. 1 second. Doctor in the TARDIS. This is actually a really handy sonic screwdriver because it's the one that inside of it actually has little jeweler screwdrivers. Like, so you can like functionally, like I fixed my reading glasses with these the other day. It's very handy. It does light up and make noise if you put, I don't have batteries in it right now, but lives in my laptop bag. And that's my biggest problem with this book. The inaccuracy in a Doctor Who reference, because I'm a pedantic nerd. I think this book is otherwise phenomenal. And I will tell you why. This is not going to be just this book's good, that whole review. This book does something really well, which is explain a topic, what is in many ways a complex topic, in a way that breaks down very simple to understand for a beginner, where someone who is just getting into a magical system can understand and wrap their head around it. The way it walks through the intermix of small exercises that you can do to try to get yourself in the right headspace, mixed with the history, mixed with the philosophy and various pieces of this, is we start out fundamentally setting the correct baseline of the kind of mindset you need to be in to practice something like chaos magic, and walking you through and slowly introducing more and more. There's a lot of witchcraft books out there that will just like throw tables at you and just throw like lists of things without good context, right? Like that was one of my problems with Anwen Avalon's book, was that often the reasoning and context for the exercises in Celtic Goddess Grimoire were done without like really establishing why things were being done, where they came from, anything like that. When you get to an exercise or something within the Chaos Apple, you are given the proper context to understand why you're doing something, what you're learning from this exercise, what the purpose of it is, right? Like every time you're introduced with like if there's a table or just a lists, mostly lists, you are giving context and understanding for why that list is there, right? And that is something that a lot of bad witchcraft books don't do. A lot of bad witchcraft books will just throw stuff at you. And I don't just mean older ones that were published 30 years ago. I mean current ones. Like I'm using Anwen Avalon's Celtic Goddess Grimoire as an example because I have it and I've read it within the last few years, and it was published, 2 years ago. So it is a contemporary, currently published witchcraft book from a different publisher that is out there. And so what Thumper does really well in this book is explain to you why you're doing it, and then also they're funny. Thumper is a funny person, and like often when authors throw in personal anecdotes, they feel self-aggrandizing, right? I feel like when Thumper relays a personal story within the text here, it is the opposite of that. Because that is the thing that drives me nuts when an author puts in a story that really just ends up being like trying to explain why the author is special. And you don't get that here. If Thumper is going to relay a personal anecdote within this text, it is because it is directly applicable to the thing that is being explained within that chapter. And I know that feels like the bare minimum. I know that feels like the obvious reason why someone would do that, but I think that actually, like, I have, in bad witchcraft books, that is not the case. This is a good book. And also, one of the reasons why I really like this book is because when you take a look at the origins of chaos magic, which again, if you go out and read the Principia Discord, like if you go out to like the origins of Discordianism, and you just read that, it's kind of it's a text that was written as a joke, right? And there is a legitimate spiritual movement that has come from this. And even the people who wrote that joke would have found philosophy came from it, but it was written as a joke. So when you read that original joke, when you read the joke that is the Principia Discordia, it's hard it takes a lot of meditation and understand, you'd have to look into it. Like the reason why Discordianism was able to be founded was the conversations happening between real people around those things. And that means, though, that when things come out of a culture and a community, like many things organically do, that means that as someone walking into this world, it's hard to understand where to start. It's hard to understand how to find the things. You have to piece it together. And while, to be fair, piecing things together can be a very good and foundational experience, it's also then hard to know, if this is the wrong path for you. In fact, I used to say that in order to understand Discordianism, you had to first read the Principia Discordia and then have a Discordian explain to you what the heck you just read, right? If chaos magic is not the right path for you, because it's not going to be the right path for everyone. Not everyone can get themselves into the headspace required for it. I'm not a chaos magician. I'm not a chaos witch. I'm just not. I am very set in my beliefs. I can't make those shifts required for this. And so having a good foundational text that gives you the scope and gives you the reality of what you're doing and gives you context. I cannot say how much I love how much this book gives you context for why the fuck you're doing anything. Think about every book that has ever told you to ground in the center without explaining to you how to ground in the center. Think about that. Or doesn't tell you why you're grounding and centering. Obviously those are not things that are talked about in this book, but when you think about the amount of times witchcraft books will just tell you that you need to do something and not explain why the fuck you're doing it. That's just all over the place. There are so many times authors make assumptions about the baseline of information that the person reading the book will know, except that's not, if you knew the shit, you wouldn't be reading a book about it a lot of the times. You know what I mean? I have often talked about this, how I know a lot of experienced witches like myself who don't read witchcraft books for fun. And I'll be honest to you, I probably wouldn't have read this book if I wasn't doing a goddamn podcast about witchcraft. Right? If I wanted to talk, I wanted to review this book because I wanted to expand my knowledge on chaos witchcraft, because I knew nothing about it. I knew nothing about the people who called themselves chaos witches. I didn't even know that they were. I didn't even know it was connected to Discordianism. I didn't know shit. I didn't know shit about this because I haven't hung out with Discordians in 2 decades. So, like, regularly, like I've met other and talked to others, but like, like hung out, like, watched Doctor in the TARDIS on a bootleg one of the people in that room was a Discordian. I am now realizing that in this memory. I don't know if he still identifies as one. But in the year 2000, dude 100% did. I'm not going to out anyone on the off chance that some friend of a friend of a friend watches a thing and figures something out, but that's a wild. Reading this book for me, actually, so this is just a personal anecdote. This is personal. This has nothing to do with the quality, but the book's good. This is not a bad thing. But reading this book dragged up so many memories of my early 20s. I am 45 years old. It dragged up so many memories of people I hung out with like 25 years ago, 26 years ago, like, and it is just remarkable to me. It's just remarkable to me because I need to call some of these people. I need to see what they're doing. But again, because like discussions I had with people, like I forgot, like reading this book, I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. Like completely had fallen out of my head. Yeah, the problem with anything becoming trendy is that a lot of people start to ascribe to it. And I think having a good foundational book like this is a book that we needed. It is a book on chaos magic that is written in the modern day and explains things and groups information in a way that can be easily followed, which is the antithesis of talking to a lot of Discordians I've ever met. When they try to explain things to you. That just may be indicative of some of the people who I know personally and not as the adherents to and worshippers of Varys as a whole. But I don't even want to say worshippers of. I don't know. It's hard to find good framing and words for things. But overall, I think if you want to know what chaos magic is, if you want to know the history, if you want to have a foundational text in your library for if someone goes to you, hey, I want to know about chaos magic, like I want to know about this stuff, this is the book. Because I will tell you, because what we have are people don't explain things well on social media. You get a lot of people jumping on the trend. Chaos Witchcraft became a trend after the Scarlet Witch, as Thumper notes in the book. And things being a trend is not always bad. Trends can be good. Phases can be good. People should try stuff out without repercussion, as long as it's like, obviously an open community that is like, hey, you should try our thing. You know what I mean? Like, I want to be very clear that, if someone is saying, hey, you can try this, it is good to try it. And if you find it interesting or intriguing. And so if someone wants to try this is a good primer, because like, especially in a world where like a lot of our exposure to this stuff is through social media, through short form content, you don't get foundational information in those sources. And this is, if anything, a good foundational book on chaos magic. And so I just cannot say enough. If you want to know about this topic, this is the book. The Chaos Apple is the book. And, yeah. By Thumper Forge, Llewellyn Press. Link in the description. I do not earn any commissions. Like, I don't have an affiliate code or anything like that. So, I make, but I will put the link down there. It's a genuinely good book. I really should have asked someone. No one paid me to say this. I should start asking people to pay me to say this stuff. Speaking of people who pay me to say stuff, thank you for listening to yet another month. Remember, this show is brought to you by our lovely patrons on Patreon. For just $1 a month, you'll get episodes like this a whole week early. You could have heard me talking about this last week. If you're a Patreon patron, you couldn't have, because you're getting this like at the earliest point. But if you're not a Patreon patron, you could have listened to this like a whole week earlier if you just contribute $1 a month. And I want to thank people at the $10 level, the shout out level of Lindsay Dosey, Claire Dennis, Pamela Stariak, Eldred Gamble, and Badass Babe. And remember, people at the $10 level also get access to ebook copies of all of my books. All of these. Not Peregrine Lake, because Peregrine Lake is co-created with Ethan Flanagan, and so I'd have to figure out how to share money, and I don't know how to do that. I know how to do that, but it's really complicated. But like, you get ebook copies of all of these, and when The Perfect Host Book 5 comes out in August, people at the $10 level will also get that ebook. People at the $5 level get my ebooks a year after they come out. And people at the $1 level, you can get a free ebook copy of Super Awesome Action Heroes role-playing game system. None of that is witchcraft related. I mean, the books are about a fictional kind of witchcraft, but not real witchcraft related, because it's just a general Trey Patreon. But those are just some perks. There are also some exclusive videos, like the little while ago, there's an entire exclusive version of the April video, the April episode, both in video and in audio form, that never went public. The whole episode got re-recorded and re-released in a whole different format. So if you want to listen to the bad version of that episode, yes, the Patreon exclusive content, the bad version of an episode, technically that is out there if you want to listen to it. There are also some other Patreon exclusive videos. I will be trying to do more Patreon exclusive content very soon. Watch this space. And yeah, it's just $1 a month. Helps you contribute. If you can't afford to contribute to the show, I understand, money's tight. I've seen gas prices. Very happy I drive a hybrid. Gas prices are terrible. You can always support the show just by sharing it, telling your friends, share the URLs. Remember, you can rate and review the show on platforms like Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And you can subscribe to the show on YouTube, which is always great for the video versions. The video versions also go up on Spotify, but the video versions are also on YouTube for everyone. And no one watches those video versions, so please make me feel better for setting up this camera. Besides that, if you just want to follow me on social media, you can find me on TikTok at TRAEGORN, on Tumblr at TRAEGORN, on Blue Sky at TRAEGORN.bsky.social. And remember, you can follow the show on Facebook at facebook.com/bsfreewitchcraft. Do not try to go find my personal page. That's where I talk to my mom. Please don't. But besides that, also I'm just barely using Facebook these days anyways. Besides that, of course, you can always find me at my personal website, tradorn.com, and at nerdandtie.com, because the show is a part of the Nerd and Tie podcast network. If you just want to talk to me directly, the best way to do it is to either join our Discord or our forums. Nerd and Tie Podcast Network, which is we're a creator collective of people largely from Wisconsin, but some not. And we have a Discord, and you can find an invite for that at nerdandtie.com/Discord, or you can join our sleepy little forums at nerdandtie.social. Largely, those are quiet, but they're there just in case, say, we decide to ever leave Discord. So go create an account there so you can potentially ever talk to me there if we choose to leave Discord. How many times can I say Discord? Anyways, remember, if you want to get your questions in for the annual for the annual Q&A show. The deadline is July 10th, 2026. And you send your questions in at bsforwitchcraft.com/contact. That's how you want to do it. I know there's like a million ways to get a hold of me on the internet, but that is the form where if I get it in on that form, I know, okay, I can use this on the show. So use that one. I want to thank you guys so much for listening to yet another ramble from me. Chaos Apple is good. It is a good book. I read it while sitting on a lake. It was nice. I've read all of the books for these book reviews while sitting on a lake. So it's not getting a favorable review because of the conditions I was in. I read these. I've read these books sitting in the exact same chair on the exact same lake for the last 3 years. So I'm very consistent with my review conditions. With that, Magicians, I will leave you until next month. And remember, dirt in our fingernails, brick in our hands. And I'll talk to you next month.